Hello and welcome to the latest Seed of the Week with the French Tech Journal. I'm Chris O'Brien, your host and editor-in-chief. I'm here this week with Samuel Hassine, co-founder of Filigran. Welcome, Samuel. We're
Thank
going
you,
to dive a
Chris.
little bit into the cybersecurity startup that just announced a seed round. Samuel, if we could just start by giving us an overview of what is Filigran.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris. I'm really glad to be there. Filigran is a cybersecurity software vendor launched in September 2022. 7 months, 8 months ago, and we are the main software editor for OpenCTI and OpenX, which are like two different platforms, part of the same portfolio. But our main, let's say, goal in for the company is really to tackle the problem of threat management, cyber threat management. So we're now almost 20 people in the company. The first employees came there October 10 of the last year. So it was like a wonderful ride since then. And we just announced 5 million in seed funding, right?
Great. So I want to go back over a few of those points you highlighted there. One of them, let's just start at threat management, which is obviously a big topic in security. You guys talk specifically about something called extended threat management. So can you define that for us and tell me a little bit about why that matters?
Yeah, extended threat management and threat management in general. We have plenty of cybersecurity vendors over there. Some of them are most focused on detecting threats. Some of them are more focused on orchestrating and defending the information system. We're really focused on the anticipation and how you can manage like the whole threat knowledge, especially tailored for your threat landscape. So that's really important. And this is where we focus. So with OpenCTI, which is basically a platform where you can manage your cyber threat knowledge in general. So that means technically, so all the signatures and the indicators that will allow you to detect threats, but also more, let's say, strategic aspect of the threat landscape, such as you are a company, you are in a given industry, you have a presence, for instance, in China. Are you targeted by cyber threats like espionage? Are you targeted by cybercrime groups? Which are the campaigns and the tactics used by those groups? This is the main focus of the platform. And then like the second platform is about like taking all those data and all this knowledge and be able to infer from that accurate scenarios of, let's say, exercises and stress tests to be able to anticipate those threats.
And so if I'm a customer, a client, Filigran, what does that look like for me? Do I have a dashboard that I'm getting alerts? Are you sort of scanning my network and all my endpoints to kind of monitor, assess that constantly, and then give me sort of actionable intelligence?
That's not exactly that. You have the kind of dashboard, so it's a platform, it's a knowledge platform, but mostly we're working. You have two ways to work in the OpenCTI platforms. The first thing is the platform can connect to remote sources, and those remote sources we will aggregate that and giving you like a full overview about like all those different sources. And those different sources you have, obviously you have like what we call like cyber threat intelligence feeds with the well-known vendor around there like Mandiant, CrowdStrike, Kaspersky, which giving you this kind of data and knowledge about like your threat landscape. But you can also put data manually or put data from your information systems, but we're not providing like, the scanning and the things on the endpoints. We are relying on other organizations and other companies to do that. So yeah, and you have like these dashboards and then like you can operationalize your data.
And so who is using that inside the company? Is it a chief security officer? Is it a security team? Or is it something all employees are likely hooked into in some way?
Um, no, because we have, this holistic approach about like having technical data and more, let's say, strategic data, it can definitely be used by the CISO of the company, but mostly it's used also by the security teams and like the operational teams. Because when you have an alert, let's say you are in a security operations center and you get an alert, the OpenCTI will definitely allow you to have and to get context about this alert, which malware it is, which intrusion sets, and which campaigns these specific alerts is tied to. But as a CISO, you also have like this added value to say, okay, I have this huge cybersecurity roadmap in front of me, and I would like to, challenge this roadmap regarding the actual threats I have in my industry, targeting my country or targeting my organization because I have the history of the incidents, and then I can adjust that roadmap.
So I want to shift a little bit to the history of the company. Can you tell me a little bit about how this whole project got started? And I know we haven't mentioned his name yet, but a little bit more about your background and the background of your co-founder.
Yeah, so we're two in this journey, Julian and me. My background is full cybersecurity, so since almost 13 years now. And I was like my background, I went like in the private sector, working for huge organizations, major banks and insurance companies, but also in the public sector. So in the French cybersecurity agency named ANSSI, kind of the same at the NCSC in the UK. And I was the cyber threat intelligence team leader there. And then I also spent 3 years in a cybersecurity software vendor, a US one. And my co-founder, he has really like a complementary background. So his background is full research and development and product management, leading team of like 60 to 80 people in previous company, mostly like developers and software engineers. So the product, we started that a few years ago because maybe I didn't say that before, but this maybe something that is special about those products, they are open source. So we started the journey on our spare time, actually when I was at ANSI, because we saw like the needs. Most of the threat intelligence teams, when they worked on non-technical knowledge, they worked in Excel, in Word, in with a lot of PDF documents and a lot of, just like handling documents and handling like Excel sheets, etc. So we had this idea that is really missing something in our space. Not something because we obviously you have other platform for cyber threat intelligence, especially like the technical knowledge, what we call like indicators of compromise, IOCs, but it's missing. We were missing a platform able to really store all levels of this knowledge and having that in a comprehensive graph about you can take from the bigger way to the really the smallest way. You have like this IP address or this domain name, and you can go and pivot on the knowledge to get like the threat actor linked to that. But you can also take your industry and go about like, okay, what are the latest campaigns targeting the finance sector? And then on the latest campaigns, you get the IOCs and the relevant stuff so you can hunt those threats. So we had like this idea and we started to develop that on our spare time. And after 2 years and a half, we got 3,000 organizations worldwide in production with the platform. And we're talking about major organizations around there. We're talking about like New York City. We're talking about Marriott. We're talking about now the FBI, which is not a customer, but which is actively part of our community and a contributor on the project. And in Europe as well, we have like major organizations using OpenCTI. So we decided to go, you know, just take a step after and look forward about like how we can deliver faster, how we can build a real company around that, and also to fulfill the expectations of our community.
And so let me make sure I understand the timeline. You guys were sort of jointly working on these open source security projects, including the OpenCTI. You were getting a lot of traction with the companies and the organizations you mentioned, governmental, non-governmental. And then at some point you said, which is I think a frequent thing with open source ideas, which is, okay, is there also a company here that kind of furthers some of these goals? Is there a commercial aspect to this? So what is the challenge sort of there in making that transition from, because obviously you can't turn around and just make suddenly privatize the initial open source stuff. You've got to sort of do something on top of that. So what was the challenge there? What did you see that you could do to make this a commercial startup that's leveraging the open source tools you've developed?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And actually, the challenges we have, obviously, we had this idea about like, okay, we can go big and we can go really, really fast about like the products, but mainly it was also like to tackle the challenges of our community, because challenges were expectations became really, really huge. And, deliver those expectations, because you have to understand that in open source, basically you don't have any contributors on the core platform of the project. It's like Linux and like any other open source project. We do have a lot of contributors on the ecosystems, of the connectors and the plugins, etc. But the main product and the core platform were basically two to develop that. So expectations became really, really huge, and we have to say, okay, whether we build the company and we build a team to be able to handle those expectations and fulfill that, or we cannot just we just stop the project. Also, it was important to understand that when you have those major organizations, don't having a company that is backing the project, it really started to be a barrier to adoption to that product. So not having enterprise support, not having cloud offering and SaaS offering around the product, it really started to be to be a problem. So yeah, and the most challenge was, okay, guys, we need to continue because the community is really important and it's part of our DNA since day zero. So we need to continue to develop the open source product, and we need to find like a proper business model around that. So we didn't reinvent the wheel, like
Mhm.
selling enterprise support, selling cloud, and selling SaaS. Starting to build an enterprise edition for really advanced features such as AI, automation, workflows that definitely, you can justify that because you need investment in research and development to develop those kind of features. So no, everything was fine, and maybe the most challenge was like, having like the education about the people, prepare the people about the Filigran birth. And we did that during 1 year with all the company, working really closely with the community, and everything were fine.
Great. So, and if I understand the timeline of the official launch of the company was October of last year?
Yeah, September. Yeah, September we did
September.
the
Okay.
announcement. We created like all the accounts, etc. It was like the burst of the company.
So right. So the transition to commercial that you just described is pretty recent still, the last 7 or 8 months. Did you raise any money, or was this your very first funding in that journey?
No, it's our very first founding. So it was like I said, we prepared a lot of our community. So it was really a great transition. We really started from zero. We closed about 1 million of revenue on the last year. This year we're targeting 3 million. And right now it's really our first fundraising round. Until now we were almost profitable.
Wow. So let's talk about the funding. I know and some of the investors who were in this round. How did you pick them? What was the process like for you in terms of what you were looking for, what they were kind of, I guess, asking you about in terms of the business?
Yeah, no, the process was really to find, the proper partners to help us in our journey, obviously, but the proper partners also that will help us in different ways. So right now we're raising like our lead VC is Moonfire, so it's a
Mhm.
UK-based VC, and it was co-founded by Matthias, which is the co-founder of the Atomico VC, which is I think well known in the UK as well. And but they are not alone in this journey, definitely. So we have like over VCs in this round, and we also have a team of 21 business angels from the US, from the UK, from France, from Portugal, and from Netherlands as well. That definitely will help us as well. So cybersecurity, etc. And the choice about like Moonfire is really because they have this approach with data and with AI, and they're really helping us about having like a more accurate view, and they also have great connections in our field. So for us, it was like, okay, we need a dream team to be able to have like this 18 months acceleration plan that will definitely bring us to the next level of the company.
And so let's talk about that. So you have this money now in hand. You mentioned a little bit, but your goals now looking out over the 18 months when you're talking about accelerating, what does that mean to you? Is it accelerating product development? Is it customer acquisition, hiring, or a mix of all those things?
That's yeah, it's a little a mix, but right now, so we're 20 people and we're definitely a tech company. So among the 20 people we have 14 people for research and development, so only software engineering, and mostly like senior developer. So right now, our goal, like for this 18 months acceleration, is to continue to grow this research and development team because we have a lot of things to do, because we have two products. We have in mind like a third product we would like to launch before the end of the year. And those huge expectations, they continue to grow. So we definitely have also to tackle like the product development growth. But the other functions in the organizations, and it's not really, it's obviously it's customer acquisition as well, but I would like to call that customer facing functions, because we have our community. So when we're talking about marketing, we're not talking only about the campaigns and the leads and the acquisitions. We're talking about you know animating this community, creating content, webinars, etc. All the things that we definitely don't have time to do now, just because this community is eager to have more use cases, more testimony from customers, etc. We have obviously also the customer success part, which is really important because we're selling support, and we're selling also the fact that Filigran is actually, even after 7 months, we are a reference in our field. And people trusted us to also not only develop the products, but also make them better with the product and get the values from the product. So it's really important. So all those functions, which are really like customer facing functions, so customer success, sales team, and also support team and marketing, are really like the functions we will grow in the future. That will lead us to 40 people at the end of this year, and to almost 60 people at the end of the next year, at the end of the acceleration phase.
And I would imagine, as you suggested, because you have this established open source community, there's an element of, as you put all those things into place, effectively just spreading the word among them that, hey, now we have this additional layers of support, products that can sort of help you take the next steps with this. You kind of have that built-in universe of people who are interested, to kind of help you gain some of that momentum, even if not all of them are going to convert. You kind of have that natural base already identified and who know you and trust you just going into this part.
Yeah, no, that was, I think it's the challenge of this year to make the proper awareness about like, guys, we also need some help actually from the community to help us achieve the goals. And it's a win-win investment when a company invested in an open source software, because in cybersecurity you don't take just a solution and just install that. It's always an investment. Even with the most mature, let's say, traditional vendors, you have plenty of solutions. You have to integrate them together. Sometimes you need custom development. You need to do just to make the integrations, to build the workflows and the processes internally between your security teams, incident response teams, etc. So it's always an investment to install and deploy a new cybersecurity solution. So it's a win-win that even a company that invested in OpenCTI 1 year ago, not financially, but they invested, their time and their resources, and now they're relying on that solution. It's a win-win that we can find an agreement to work together, so we can also invest in the solution they're using on a daily basis. And then like the other challenge that we have is to just go work out of the community and really like bring more organizations and more customers in, because since the beginning of the journey of OpenCTI, it was also a fact that cyber threat intelligence generally is reserved to major customers and major organizations. And since the beginning, we saw that OpenCTI is also used by less mature organization, by students, by universities to do some research, etc., because it's open source. And since the beginning, like democratizations and be able to democratize like the field and make CTI accessible to a lot of organizations that cannot afford to have a commercial product. It's also something that we need to develop in the future. So the challenge is be like, yeah, okay, maybe cyber threat intelligence is something you don't know about, or something you don't feel that it can be useful, or maybe like the investment it's so huge for you. But thanks to Filigran and thanks to OpenCTI, you now have access to this kind of knowledge and this kind of data, and you can actually make something valuable for your organizations with that.
Okay, so a couple last quick questions here. You referenced kind of earlier on this, but I'll come back to it. In terms of competition, what does the competitive landscape look like for you? And is it the open source element, that sort of democratization, that you feel like sets you apart from those competitors?
No, actually, we have like we have a few strengths that make us like really differentiate from the competition. Open source is one of them, obviously, but it's definitely not the only one. And we're like the product we built that without like being in mind that okay, it's open source, so it will be almost free and it will land everywhere, etc. We built that okay, we want to be game changer for the field. So the first thing is what I just talked about at the beginning. So we don't have any competition when it comes to, let's say, having this comprehensive approach about cyber threat landscape, including like the victims, including the campaigns, including the tactics, and not only, this technical approach. And this is also why we're not replacing our competitors just in the cyber field, but we are also, if you take, we're we're a platform of intelligence, and you can do cyber intelligence, you can do disinformation with that, you can fight against disinfo. And this was also one of the things that make like the EU and the US chose OpenCTI as the main exchange standard for fighting disinformation, because basically, yeah, it's a knowledge platform where you can put everywhere. So we have like plenty of, let's say, competitors around there that are great solutions, but definitely, we don't have exactly like the same solution as OpenCTI is bringing on the table.
Okay, I think we've covered most everything here. You've mentioned a number of sort of challenges or priorities for the company the next 18 months. Anything else we haven't addressed in terms of challenges or opportunities, or just things that people should know about the company?
Yeah, I know the most important challenge is really to be able to deliver, the vision we have in mind. And it's a challenge for all company, I think, but especially like, Filigran and the open source and the portfolio we're building is quite like different from any other portfolio. Like, we're not doing detection, we're not doing operations, we're not doing vulnerability management. We're just like doing crisis anticipation, risk anticipation, threat management, and also like ensuring to crisis and to major cyber crisis with a third product that is coming. So the most important thing is the challenge is just to do that. But maybe one other challenge that we didn't mention about is obviously we have our strategy in terms of geographies, in terms of industries, as any other company. But the challenge is right now our community is worldwide. And the main region are United States, Europe, so North America, Europe, and Australia in that order. And the problem is, as a young, let's say, European company, yeah, we don't have any presence there. We have to rely on our partners. So maybe like, yeah, the challenge we have right now is to find the right partners to get there, able also to deliver values on top of the products. And even if we're not focusing right now on those markets, we cannot ignore them because, right now we have almost 30% of our revenue down in the US. So that's something that, it's a challenge for a young company.
And that just happened organically. That happened to be where the community
Yeah,
was.
it's
And
really organically. So we're not focusing on that right now, but we do have some great partners there. That's
yeah.
help.
By the way, I am obliged to ask, since you've mentioned it a couple of times now, this mysterious third product. Any insight you can give there, or is it still kind of a closely guarded secret?
No, it's not a secret. It's called like Open Crisis. Obviously, it will be open source as well, and it's really like something that is missing in any organizations right now. It's just with Julien, we have something in mind that is most of the times this the let's say the main competitor we're replacing everywhere, and why we're building the product, it's Excel. So OpenCTI was here to replace Excel and wikis. OpenX was here to replace Excel and wikis and emails, etc. And Open Crisis is exactly the same. It's the missing chain in major organizations. How you handle a cyber crisis or a generic crisis. Right now, if you have to enable your crisis cells, if you have to do, your logs and plan like some crisis meetings, etc., you're doing that with Excels, your calendars and everything. So we have to tackle that, and especially like linked to the OpenX and OpenCTI platform as a whole. And everyone in the community are really eager to see, when the product will came out. We received like by week, I think 10 or 12 emails about, guys, when it will be out, we need to test that. We have the need internally. So yeah, it's the third product, part of the threat management portfolio.
Yeah. Great. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time this afternoon. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks a lot for your time.
I'm sure we'll be in touch, but we'll make sure people know how to contact you, and we'll follow along on your progress.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thank you for your time.